Guys, welcome to Wood Nickel. Thanks very much for playing today. First of all, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hey, Bob, and thank you for having us. I'm Ted.
How are you doing? I guess you all are doing great. I'm Brian, and
We're the Scissormen.
All
When you
right.
stick us together,
All right.
apart, we're actually also the Scissormen, but not actually stuck together.
I know it's been a long day for you guys, ready? Because you came in from St. Louis. Long ride.
Yep.
How'd the gig go last night?
The gig last night was fun. It was really
Yeah.
great. We played a couple of really long sets. Altogether, we played from about 9:30 to about 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
So it's
Wow.
good to kind of have your stamina up, for the marathon performances. But we had a great time. Had a couple of good catfish sandwiches and a
good jam at the end too.
good
huh?
jam at the end, a drink or two. Met some new friends down there, and it was really great. We've had good times in St. Louis in general, and also in Fort Wayne. So we're
All
actually
right,
psyched to
yes.
be back here
Yes.
and to get a chance to play with Left Lane Cruiser again.
Yes, they're awesome too, aren't they? Anderson, do you want to?
Tell us a little bit about how the band got started and what your guys' roots are and style of music that you play.
You bet. The band got off to a real slow start in a sense because in about 1990 I started traveling down to North Mississippi. The first time I went down, I was looking to find Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside, whose music I heard. And as it turned out, they were easy to find because I got to the airport in Memphis, got in a car, went down to Oxford. Matthew Johnson from Fat Possum threw me in his car and poured us a couple of glasses of vodka. And we drove up to Junior Kimbrough's juke joint at about 2:30 in the afternoon. And Junior was playing on one side. It was just loud. The whole place was rattling. It was really great. And then on the other side, RL was in a lawn chair drinking a beer. And I thought, well, this is pretty amazing. You heard these two guys who were like these holy grail guys to me, and they're right there. And I had never really been in a juke joint before either, kind of mostly grown up north. I'd been in a lot of rundown bars, but it's not quite the same thing. The vibe is different, And I think for the first half hour, I was transfixed. And I'd loved blues for a long time, but until I heard Junior and RL, and also Jessie Mae Hemphill, who I was aware of at that point, I really hadn't been aware that blues that interesting and cool and kind of original was still kicking around out there, or even that people like that were part of the juke joint culture and it was so vibrant. So it kind of turned my head around about what the state of blues was and where it could go. And at the time I was playing in psychedelic rock bands, and I kept playing in rock bands for another 8 years and didn't play this music for a long time either. It's not like I went down there, heard it and latched onto it because I don't think that's right, number one. And number two, there are just so many mediocre blues guitar players. I didn't want to be another one. I was playing in psychedelic and punk rock bands at the time, but I felt that their music completely keyed into the psychedelic and the punk thing in a really great way. And basically, after about 8 years of hanging out with them, and then being talked into it by my buddy Rob Hulsman, who started the band with me, we actually started playing this stuff. Little by little, I started converting my playing style to this. I'd been a pick player, and I used to use an extensive pedal board with about 12 to 14 pieces on it, and big multiple amps and the whole deal. And we were in an alternative rock band, a signed alternative rock band in the 90s called Vision Thing, and we toured with Belly and opened up for the Gang of Four and stuff like that. And I just thought having a little two-piece juke joint band, especially when I started to play it and started to feel it would be the right thing to do for me ultimately. And actually, R.L. Burnside probably led me to play this music even more than than Rob, the other R.L., because Burnside, for about 3 years, would say, "Hey man, you should sit in and play with us," because he'd heard an album that I gave to Kenny Brown in my band, a CD, and he thought, hey, that guy can play guitar, he should play. And I thought, man, RL, nobody wants to see me, I'm like, it's not my thing, I'm not. And then when I finally played with RL, I knew it was special because when I got off stage, I almost fell down because my knees were shaking, And after that, I played with him as often as he'd let me and as often as we crossed paths. And eventually, I guess it all kind of seeped in. I started finger picking and, just changing my whole style and approach and mentality. But the greatest thing about hanging out with those guys wasn't really learning any music stuff because I never asked them to show me anything. It was just kind of hanging out and being a fly on the wall and getting exposed to them and their world and just kind of learning a little bit about life through their eyes. And that's kind of had maybe the biggest impact on forming this band than anything else.
Could you explain the slide guitar challenge that you do?
Oh, well, it's sort of funny. I just ended up playing one day. I was I can't even remember where the gig was, but the band had started a little bit. Actually, it was my previous band, a psychedelic rock band, the Devil Gods. and we were wireless in that band too. And I was playing somewhere, and somebody at a table handed me a beer bottle, which is kind of the cliche thing. So I was like, no, I don't want the beer bottle. So I grabbed an ashtray and started playing with the ashtray.
Oh, okay.
And there was a salt and pepper shaker, so I grabbed that. And then I just grabbed something else, and it just kind of kept going from there, you know. And it just kept accumulating, like to the point where in DC, I played a gig with somebody's full dinner plate of spaghetti, you know, in Mississippi, I played with a machete, a 9mm, you know, whatever anybody would hand me, like whiskey bottles,
Yeah.
and it just kind of grew from there. At this place, I played with like a pumpkin, and then a little while ago, after our album "Luck in a Hurry" came out, Blurt magazine got wind of it and wind of the live show, and they asked if I would do a slide guitar challenge for them, and they gave me a list of things to play with, like a light bulb, a giant drawbreaker, a rib bone, Memphis style for some reason. No, Kansas City style for some reason. Now, being in Nashville, I was more partial to Memphis style, but you know, I tried to accommodate them as best I could. And you know, a pole, a razor scooter was part of it. You know, so they just came up with this list, and we went for it. Plus, we upped the ante a little bit by playing with a martini glass and then breaking down the shaker and playing with all the parts of that too.
Wow.
So it's kind of fun. I mean, if you just kind of get a handle on the aerodynamics of it, you can play with almost anything except meat or soft vegetables. And if the meat's been left out in the open long enough, you can probably play with that too. Yeah, a McDonald's burger.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the new album that you have out now that we're selling at Wood Nickel?
Okay. Well, the new album's called Luck in a Hurry, and you know, it's a terrible pun, but everybody does really need luck in a hurry.
Yeah.
But that's not why we called it that. It's just a weird time. But we thought Luck in a Hurry would be a good name for it, and it's kind of a little bit of everything that the band does. There's some stripped down country blues stuff. There's an acoustic solo tune on it. There's this kind of a tribute to the kind of Memphis string band thing, at least my idea of it, which is a tune called Maddie Sweet Maddie, inspired by Fred McDowell, but then kind of put a little bit of the Memphis string band thing into it by having it just be guitar, fiddle, and piano. Billy Conway from Morphine plays on a couple of tracks. Our friend Dickie Barrett from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones plays on a tune called Whiskey and Mary Jane. And it's a tune he actually had expressed interest in recording for the Boss Tones fan club, but then the Boss Tones went on hiatus. And as it turns out, just as this album comes out, they're back together. So it's a nice coincidence. I'm glad they're back together because they're a great band. But it kind of, you know, does the whole Scissorman world, you know. And there's a couple of cover tunes, some Sun House tunes, but most of it's original, and there's some Mississippi dance hall stuff and some North Mississippi grind stuff and some kind of stompin' rock and roll stuff with, I think, a little bit of a hill country vibe to it.
And the name Scissormen, could you tell us where that might have come from? Is that just something out of the blue? Or?
No, that's, you know, the band is called that because when Brian and I are not touring, we're licensed beauticians. Nah, that's a lie. I did have you for a second.
Yeah,
I saw that expression on your face.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know, there's a great Three Stooges routine where they go to Mexico and buy a beauty shop, and Curly says, "Oh, we're licensed beauticians." But anyway, the band was named by my buddy Rob, the other RL, who started it with me and had to leave because his family expanded. Anyway, he named it that, and he named it after a German fairy tale about the red-legged scissormen, I think it's red-legged, who sneak into the rooms of children who suck their thumbs at night and snip their thumbs off with their scissory legs.
It's a hell of a fairy tale.
And I figured, and you know, he said, well, you want to call it Scissormen? And I'm like, sure, what the heck? You know, my feeling was, call it anything but a blues cliche. I didn't want it to be the mojo anythings, or the blue anythings, or the smoking anythings, because that stuff doesn't do any good for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, you know, had it with that stuff. You know, let's bring a little imagination to this music, just like Howlin' Wolf and Son House and Robert Johnson and all those guys did. You know, just because the music is 100 years old doesn't mean it has to feel like it. You know, to me, it's like an expanding, you know, living tradition that has room to grow and that can push the envelope just like any other kind of music can. And I'm really militant about that, you know. And that doesn't mean that a regular blues audience can't, you know, dig what we do, because we play straight ahead blues festivals and straight ahead blues clubs, but we also play shows like the one we're going to play tomorrow night at the Brass Rail. And, you know, really kind of all we do is just turn up a little louder. You know, and that's that's about it. You know.
All right. Well, hey guys, thanks very much for playing at Wood Nickel. And,
our pleasure, man.
I see you got quite a bit of shows coming up, so good luck with all those and everything in the future.
Thanks. It's good to stay busy, and you know, there's nothing I like better than playing live. So there you go. I mean, for me, breaking records is an excuse to go play live more. You know?
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
All right.